Well, hello there, everybody, and we are Above and Beyond with the Apostolic Apostle Lamont Walker. Thank you so very much for tuning in. If this is your first time watching one of these broadcasts, I want you to know that they are to encourage you, to empower you, to educate you, to motivate you, to inspire you, and to uplift you, to move towards your destiny, operating in the purpose for which you've been created, using the gifts that are within you. We are always about renewing the mind and the body for healthy living. If today is your birthday, I pray that your day is filled with many blessings, gifts, and love from all around, and that you enjoy as many of the sweet things as you desire. Just don't make yourself sick, all right? It's your day. Go out, celebrate it, live it up. Why? Y'all know what I'm going to say, because you deserve it. All right, I thank you so very much to all of you, my faithful family members and friends and supporters from near and from far. I thank you for every like, every share, every comment, every red and blue dot. Those are the hearts and the thumbs up. It means a great deal to me, and I love you, love you, love you a long time. So I'm going to jump right into this, and I'm going to share what has been on my heart for just a little bit. And so I've been pondering several thoughts here, and I've had some very interesting conversations over the last couple of days that has led me to the point where I am sharing with you all here at this particular point in time. And so one of the thoughts that initially triggered this particular sharing and this particular broadcast was in the area of relationships, and I'm going to talk about that here in just a moment. But sometimes in my quiet time, in my meditation time, I reflect on things that I've experienced, and I reflect on my behaviors and contributions and things of that nature, just, whatever is in my heart that I need to survey and access and assess what's in my heart and what's in my mind and things that I may be carrying out or even executing. And so it has led me to this point here where I landed on this particular thought about why people may be leaving your churches. And this isn't a one-all diagnosis. This isn't a perfect diagnosis. This isn't even a prognosis, but it is, I think, a topic that is of consideration, especially for those of you who are leading congregations, to take a chance at engaging in the conversation. And even if you don't engage in the conversation, just at least have the thought or begin to think about one of the things is the health of your church or your congregation. And I by no means am no expert. So let me put this disclaimer out there. I ain't got no church, ain't pastor no church, so you can take what I'm finna share and say with a grain of salt, or you can chuck it, shuck it, do whatever, ignore it, all of those things if you want to. However, I have been blessed to lead fellowships in certain areas and direction in ministry. And so what I am about to talk about, I do have some experience in it. And again, if nothing else, I want this to be a conversation starter for you. If you are a pastor or a leader, you don't even have to be a pastor, but if you are a leader in a fellowship or a church or a ministry, I think that it is of note and of importance for you to at least have these thoughts and be able to see and think from this particular perspective in which I'm going to share. But this is in regards to why people may be leaving your church. And so if people have left your church, maybe some of them have told you why they were leaving your church. Maybe some of them did not tell you why they were leaving your church. But I think it's important to at least survey this. Raven, my cousin Raven, I love you. I think it is important for you to survey your ministry, your church, your organization, your business, your career. You should survey these things to always check the health of it. I will say that again. You should survey these things to always check the health of it. Just like you check the health of your body, of your mind, of your finances. And if you aren't, then you should, so that you can know what is the status of the health of your health. So just like you do that for yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, you need to do these things for anything that you are leading. Again, if that's your business, if you're a leader of an organization, if you're leading a ministry or a church, anything where you have oversight of an authority, you should check the health of that to make sure it is the healthiest that it can be, because this is going to come up in the conversation. Don't nobody want to be around and be a part of nothing unhealthy. Now let me come to your house and talk to you. You don't want to eat no rotten fruit or vegetables, do you? No. And one of the reasons why you're not going to eat it or consume it is because you know that it will make you sick. Uh-oh. As the music would say, dun, 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 dun. And so sometimes when you do not observe or survey the status or the health status of your church, it is a good possibility that you are serving up, let me say it this way, you are serving up rotten ministry. You are serving up rotten church and expecting your parishioners or your congregants to consume it. And here's the sad part. Some of your parishioners and congregants, they consume that rotten ministry. And what does it do? It makes them sick. Okay, so I had not planned to go that route or even phrase it in that way, but that's the way that it came out right here on this particular broadcast. And so I want to, and I posed this question on in my stories. I posted on Instagram and on Facebook, and I just put up the little question and said, why do you think people are leaving churches? Let's see, on Instagram, 10 people saw it, and out of the 10 people that saw it, only 2 responded. Now I don't know if one of them I do know is a believer, and I believe is a part of a church. And the other person that responded, I'm not sure if they have any religious affiliation at all or not, but only 2 people responded. And I did not expect, no, I knew it would be interesting to see if anybody responded, number one. Number two, what their responses would be. And the response or the lack of response or little response that I got says to me that this is a conversation that a lot of y'all in church need to have. And if you're not having it, you need to present it. Or if you are having it, you should present it to the leadership in your church. Not necessarily to just talk about or pinpoint things that you may find of concern. Let me say it that way. So I'm going to be very conscientious of the word choice as much as I can tonight. But it should be a conversation that is had regularly in your fellowship. And you, if you're a leader or if you're just a part of that church, you should be a part and included in that conversation. One of the reasons being because if you consider yourself to be a member of any church, then you contribute either to the health or lack thereof of that ministry, of that church. And so this is one of the reasons why I think it's very important to engage in this conversation. So anyway, only 10 people saw it on Instagram. 2 people responded on Facebook. 15 people saw the story. I don't know how many people actually responded on Facebook. I didn't think to check that to see if there were any responses there. I didn't see any, but it concerns me. It concerns me. It may not concern you, but it concerns me because I think that because I know that I care about people, and I know that God has given me a heart for people. And I personally, I want to see people do well. You all always hear me say that when I give it in this broadcast, is that I'm praying for you because I want to see you win. And if you are unhealthy, if you are sick, that means you are not winning in some area. And don't just categorize it in the vein or vernacular of physical, but let's look at mental, spiritual, emotional, financial, social, economical. Okay. All right. So you want to make sure that you are healthy in every last one of those areas of your life. And that same goes for a church. Same goes for a church. The church should be healthy from top to bottom as much as it can be. Now, I don't want y'all to take this to say that a church should be perfect. That's not what I'm saying. I don't know that there will ever exist a perfect church. Why? Because you have imperfect people who are leading those churches. All right. So I don't think that any church will ever be perfect, but that church should be healthy. Okay. All right. Now let's get into this and talk about a little bit. And those of you that are watching this, those of you that are viewing, listening to this, please, by all means, as I always say, share in the comment section your thoughts and your perspective. And the question is, why do you think some people are leaving churches? That's the question. And some of the things that I wrote down, these are just some of the things that I've been able to observe, and I wrote them down. And these are not all, but again, I don't want anybody to think I'm talking about one particular church or one particular ministry. I'm talking about my observation after having gone through several, probably hundreds, maybe even thousands of churches in my lifetime. So I want to lift a few things. And I want to see if any of these things strike you. Hi, Shell. Shell is such a blessing. I love her spirit. She's so very gracious and kind. Every time she sees me and greets me, I just absolutely love it. Thank you for tuning in. But one of the responses that I got from an individual that responded to the question was, the question is, why do you think people are leaving churches? Or why do you think people may be leaving churches? One of those things is, one response said, I don't know. And I think that is a very honest answer. I think it's a very honest answer. And I'm writing something else down here because this just came to me here as we were talking. And I think that's going to be good too, as soon as I get to it. Okay, so one person said, I don't know. Another person said, commercialization. I would agree with that response, that some people may be leaving churches because church has become too commercialized. My sister, Nakisha, missionary Mesha, I love you. And I think that that is a very accurate response. Some churches, again, not all, and I don't want y'all to think that I'm talking about one particular church or ministry or anything of this nature, where we're speaking in broad terms across the board. That some churches, and this is from one of my followers, their perspective is that churches become too commercialized. It's too commercial. It looks too much like lights, camera, action. That's what it is. And I'm not knocking. Now, when I say that, I don't want y'all to think that I'm knocking technology and the advancement of technology and the use and implementation of some of these tools from media that we have been blessed to receive access to. These are definitely tools that I think that we can use to help, again, spread the message of the word. But for some, it is all about lights, camera, and action. And these notifications is getting ready to drive me bazonkers because they just keep showing up, popping up while I'm on. I'm like, I think I'm getting a little older, y'all. So my tolerance and patience for some things is starting to wane, I see. Because before I wouldn't even be bothered with it. But I'm like, quit popping up while I'm trying to, what that lady say on that live. She said, honey, not while I'm on the live. Her husband walked by. He was half naked on her live video. But anyway, these notifications are popping up. But anyway, so, it's for some churches or some ministries, it seems that it's like lights, camera, action, and that's a necessary. You got to have it. And if you don't have lights, camera, and action, you ain't having church. You didn't have church. It don't, just shut it out. Then we can't do nothing else. It don't matter, and I think that is one of the things that definitely has crept into a lot of churches, that mindset of being very commercial and having a certain appeal. Now, when it comes to business, let me talk about that aspect too with commercialization. I think there are some things that should be in play because, again, I believe that ministry should be done in excellence and it should be done with the highest quality possible. Now, I don't think that should supersede the reason why churches exist. All right, let me say that again. I don't think that it should supersede the reason why churches exist. Churches exist to meet the needs of people. Here we go. Physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, financially, socially, economically, right? And in doing so, the only way that we can do that successfully and effectively is by connecting people to, here we are, the source. Who is the source? The source is God. I feel like a good mix of The Matrix and Great Debaters, because on The Matrix they're talking about you got to get to the source. Well, the source got to get there and talk to the source. And then on Great Debaters they said, who's the judge? I say the judge is God. And why is he God? Because he determines who wins or loses, not my opponent. Okay, I've watched these movies way too many times. I love movies, good movies too. But anyway, so here's another answer. Here's another reason, because I don't want to make this too long. And again, you all please feel free to share in the comment section. The question question is, why do you think some people are leaving churches? Let's go a little bit deeper. Another answer that I came up with is toxic leadership. Toxic leadership. I think that may be a reason why some people are leaving churches, because of toxic leadership. And so what I mean when I say toxic leadership is that you may have either a pastor or a senior pastor or a group of pastors or leaders in a church that may be underdeveloped, either mentally, spiritually, or emotionally. So they don't necessarily have the capacity or the tools or equipment or skills needed to be able to lead people in a healthy, effective, successful way. Right. And this is even going over into some leaders may be still a bit immature or immature, depending upon how you say that word. They may be a bit immature. They don't have, again, they're not ready. They haven't developed conflict resolution. They haven't developed decision-making skills. They haven't developed time management skills. All right. They haven't developed people skills, people resources, because, even in churches, and this is one thing in the corporate world, they call it human resources. You have to know how to manage human resources. And when you're in a leadership position, one of the other things is that you have to learn how to manage or handle people with different personalities, and not necessarily multiple personalities, but every personality or every person that may be a part of your church has a different personality. And you have to be able to adjust or know how to manage various or different personalities in order to have a healthy, successful, effective, functioning church. Okay. I think that is very important. Sometimes, so you can't have that if you have a leader. If you have a leader that is a know-it-all. So if you have a leader that knows everything and can't nobody tell them anything because they know everything, that is toxic leadership. One of the things I heard, and I don't know if this is a quote out of somebody's book or a cliche or whatever, but I've heard this saying that if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. If you are a person that knows it all, you're in the wrong room. You as a leader, if your leader is a person that knows it all, they're in the wrong room. You always need to be I don't care who you are, whatever level that you're on. If you're a leader or not a leader, you're leading in some capacity. And we had this conversation today in the barbershop. Whether you are a leader in church or a leader on your job, you're definitely a leader at home. You are a leader at your own house. Okay, so you lead that. It don't matter if you're male or female. If you live in a house, if you got a family or not, you are still a leader there. And who are you leading? You're leading yourself. Okay, so you are a leader in some capacity, but you don't want to be the type of leader that knows it all. That's going to lead to toxicity, and that's eventually going to hinder how your relationships are. That's going to hinder your leadership. It's going to hinder the way that you communicate. Communication skills are important and necessary. Healthy, effective communication skills are definitely needed, and that could also be, again, a reason why some people may be leaving churches. And here's another thing, talking about leadership being toxic, is that some leaders are so stubborn and set in their ways that they refuse to receive or see anything different other than the way that they are seeing it and other than what they already know. They're stubborn. They're set. They ain't gonna move. They ain't gonna do nothing different. Do y'all hear me what I'm saying? That's toxic leadership. That is what makes a church or a ministry unhealthy. It makes it rotten. It makes it rotten. Okay. And when you serve that up to your parishioners or your congregants, you're serving them rotten church. You're serving them rotten ministry. And what's happening is it's making your congregants sick. I'm going to say that again. It makes rotten church, rotten ministry, rotten leadership. It makes the congregation sick. Therefore, it will cause a decline or a decrease in the health of your church or your ministry. Okay, let's go to the next thing. There's a lack of, I wanted to read something here when I was talking about toxic leadership. Jeremiah 23. Let me see. I don't know how far down I'm going to go, but I'm going to start at verse 1. Jeremiah 23 verse 1 says this, and this is in the NIV. It says, "Woe to the shepherds who are destroying and scattering the sheep of my pasture, declares the Lord. Therefore, this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says to the shepherds who tend to my people. Because you have scattered my flock and driven them away and have not bestowed care on them, I will bestow punishment on you for the evil you have done, declares the Lord." Toxic leaders, if you are a leader in a church, I don't care what level, what capacity, if you are a leader in a church, that word pastor is talking about leaders or overseers, but it's a leadership role. You must make sure that you take care of those who are following your leadership. Hi, Vicky. Thank you for tuning in. All right. So I hope you heard me on that. Let me go to the next part. Again, why do you think, and those of you that are listening and watching this, put your responses in the comment section. Why do you think some people may be leaving churches? Okay. Here's another one. It lacks progress. Your church lacks progress. That could very well be a reason why some people may be leaving your church, because it lacks progress. People cannot see any movement forward, any progressive movement forward. Progressive. It's moving forward. It's not going around in circles, but it's moving forward. Y'all like my little hand gestures? Let me do it again. It's not going around in circles, but your church is moving forward. Here's one of the things. When you start going around in circles, you just going around in circles, you ain't going nowhere. And you ain't marching around the wall of Jericho, because that wall is down. That wall done went down, done come down, and ain't up no more. But your church or your ministry is going around in circles. And what happens, have y'all ever been on that little merry-go-round when you get on that thing and you hold on to the bar, and the person who's spinning it, they outside the merry-go-round and they running around trying to get that thing to spin and give it momentum and motion, and they get that thing going as fast as they can get it, and then you own the merry-go-round, and you spinning and you holding on and you screaming and laughing because it's absolutely wonderful good time. But then as soon as that merry-go-round stops and you get off, what are you? D-I-Z-Z-Y. You are dizzy. And this is what happens to a congregation or a congregant when your church lacks progress. You end up with dizzy people. and I'm laughing because, when the kids would get off the merry-go-round, they'd be so dizzy and drunk, they'd be clashing into each other, running into each other. And this is some of the things that some of y'all are seeing in your church. That thing tickled me, y'all. In the congregation, some of your congregants are clashing into each other because they're dizzy. And why are they dizzy? Because you got, what's this song? You got me going in circles. Oh my God. Okay. I crack myself up, y'all. I really do. This is what I have a good time by myself. And, other like-minded people, when I get around them, they just increase the good time that I have. And so thank you all for being here. All right. So you want to make sure that you're not lacking progress. If you are lacking in progressive movement forward, if you are lacking in that movement forward, what that says is that you have a lack of strategy. Now, let me talk about this. Proverbs 20:18 says, plans are established by seeking advice. Plans are established by seeking advice. And there are tons of scriptures that talk about the safety that is found in the multitude of wise counsel. All right. So you have to be able to, this is what I wrote down here, conduct a survey. You have to survey your leadership, and you also have to survey your congregants or your parishioners to get their perspective or see your church or ministry from their vantage point, not just yours, but from their vantage point, so that you can again try to discern and ascertain, the health and the status of your church, and where, the weak areas may be, as well as where the strong areas may be. I want to talk about this survey thing. When I was leading the music ministry there at United Community Cathedral, every year I would conduct a survey. And I got that idea. And let me tell you where I got that idea from. I got that idea from my college courses when I was a student at the university. At the end of every course, they would survey the student. They would ask questions. Was it adequate amount of time? Did you like the teacher? Did you like the way that they talked? Did you like the content of the material? What was your favorite subject? What was your least favorite subject? They will ask those types of questions to survey the students, not just to talk about the professor, but also the course, so that they could see from the student's perspective on how that course or that professor had an impact on them. And so what I began to do is I began to survey the singers and musicians that were a part of our ministry. And watch this, y'all. The questions that were on there were about me, but it was also about the music ministry. And then finally, it was questions about them. Hear me what I say. So the questions, about me, well, how was Lamont as a minister of music or as a music director? Did he teach you appropriately? Did he teach you adequate song? Did he teach relevant material? Did he teach biblical principles that were associated with the songs you were singing? How was his tone in communicating with you? Do you felt like he was approachable? Do you felt like he was, that he was kind? Things of that nature. And then there were questions about the music ministry itself. What do you think about the music ministry? Do you think that the music ministry in this church is effective? Do you think it has had an impact on you or anybody else? And then questions about them. Then some of the questions that I would ask that was on the survey for the singers were, how much time did you spend preparing for rehearsals? Here's that music again. Dun, 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 dun. Because see, the way that I led and executed music ministry is I gave my singers as much and as many tools as I possibly could. So that way they were always, they had every opportunity to be well prepared and polished and effective in doing music ministry. And so one of the things that I would have my singers and musicians do is I would make sure that I would encourage them to come to rehearsal prepared to rehearse. See, one of the things I found out is that you don't learn the song in rehearsal. That rehearsal time is not for learning the material. Rehearsal time is for rehearsing the material that you've already learned. That's what rehearsal is for. Rehearsal is for rehearsing, going over the material that you yourself as a singer or you yourself as a musician has already learned. You shouldn't be learning material in the rehearsal unless maybe there was something that, you thought that you heard on your own and you came to and the director needs to tweak it. But like all of this learning from A to Z in rehearsal time, it's a waste of time. It's ineffective. In my own personal opinion, I think it's ineffective. And that's something that I learned. So I would ask singers, hey, how much time did you spend preparing for rehearsals? Did you come to rehearsals prepared? Did you listen to your practice tracks? Because that's something that I created. Did you listen to your practice tracks before you came to rehearsal? How much time did you spend in reading the word? How much time did you spend in devotion? How much time did you spend in attending Bible studies? Those were questions that were on the survey. Because one thing that I've learned, and I picked this up from people in church, that church people are real good at pointing the finger at other people, but don't never ever look at them 4 fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4. Them 4 fingers that's pointing back at them. Hey, so while you trying to point the finger at me and you pointing out all my flaws and everything that I messed up and everything that you don't like about me, okay, when you get done with all of that, then we coming to you. Okay, we're going to talk about you. All right. So again, progress. You got to have a plan. You're not going to get to 5-star quality ministry, 5-star church. You're not going to get to the best rated church if you don't have a plan. And watch this. And the goal, watch what I'm about to say to you. The goal should never, ever be to be a 5-star church. I want to be the best church on the face of the planet. That shouldn't be your goal. Your goal should be to please God. Now, along with that, God gives strategy. Y'all ain't gonna hear me. Come on up in here and talk to me, King David. God gave King David strategy for how to conquer his opponents. He also gave strategy, hear me, to Moses on how to construct the tabernacle. And when he gave them instruction and he gave those men wisdom, they constructed it in a way where it was excellent. And this herein lies another reason why some people may be leaving your church is because you ain't got no progress. You don't have no plan and you don't have no excellence. You just haphazardly do stuff. You just do stuff and expect people to accept it, and expect people to like it, and expect people to consume it and go along with it. And it's rotten. Okay, it's rotten. Let me get out of there. But it's a possibility that people may be leaving your church because your church lacks progress. If your church is going around in circles, you may be lacking progress. And how can you look at it and say, is my church lacking in progress? Is my church going around in circles? Just stop and say, okay, what did we do in 2025? And we're over in 2026. Are we doing the same thing that we did in 2025? You got me going in circles. Okay, you have to ask that. Are we doing the exact same thing that we did in 2025? We're in 2026. Are we doing the same thing that we did in 2024? In 2026, are we still doing the same thing? It's a possibility you may be going in circles, right? So stop. And just not even just with church. Again, start at your own house. Look at your own house and see, are you going in circles in your daily decisions, in your daily life, in your daily workhood, in your daily relationship with God? Are you going around in circles, or are you making progress? Do you have a plan for how to progress and advance and obtain growth? Okay. Physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, financially, socially, economically. Let's keep going. Another reason, this is a big one, y'all. Another reason why some people may be leaving your church is because your love, let me look at the camera when I say this, that your love doesn't look like love. That could very well be the reason why some people are leaving your church, is because your love doesn't look like love. It doesn't feel like love. It doesn't sound like love. Let me read the scripture here. 1 John chapter 4, verse 7 in the NIV says, I'm in the wrong chapter. Get back over there. It went to the wrong place. Here we go. 1 John chapter 4, verse 7. It says, "Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God." This was in some of y'all's Bible. Hear me. It's in your Bible. Go ahead, turn to it. 1 John chapter 4, verse 7. That everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because what? God is love. All right. So some people may be leaving your church because what's up, Ty? Oh my God, Reverend Ty. I know he probably gonna say it in the comments. If he didn't say it in the comments, he's thinking it in his head, and I can hear his voice say, just Ty. But some people may be leaving your church because your love does not look like love. It doesn't feel like love, and it doesn't sound like love. I always like to share this experience that I had, whenever I get a chance to talk in this area, in this vein, is that for those of you who attend church, those of you who are leaders in a church, the person who is standing on the door as a greeter or an usher or security, I see some just time. Those that are standing on the door at the entrance and exit of your church as either a security guard, a usher, or a greeter, or a porter, they are your first point of contact as to what a person will or may not experience in your church. And I will never forget, I entered into a church that is a church that's pretty well known in a particular city. And upon me opening up the door and entering into the foyer, coming across the threshold of the sanctuary, there was one lady who was standing on the door as a greeter or a porter. And I will never forget how she made me feel. She made me feel insignificant. She made me feel as if I didn't matter. She made me feel as if I was not supposed to be there. And how did that occur? It was based upon the look that she gave to me. She looked me up and down like that, No, hi, hello, thank you for being here. No, welcome to so-and-so. We are glad you're here. We're glad to see you. Come on in. Let me show you to a seat. None of that, but it was a look up and down. So how do you think the rest of my experience was in that particular service? I can tell you this. It was incredibly challenging for me, and I'm a church baby, born and raised in church. I love church. I know church. It was incredibly difficult for me to move past that moment, so much so to the point where I am here in 2026. It's still with me, and that happened years ago. So, you have to be very careful and conscientious of the people who are standing on guarding the entrance and exit of your churches as either security or greeters or porters. You have to make sure it is people who have discernment and people who are kind. Let me say that. Just people who are kind. Can I say that one more time? Your leaders, again, this goes back to toxic leadership. If your leaders aren't kind, it's toxic. It's rotten. And that's what you're serving up to your visitors as well as your congregants. It's rotten and they're sick. They're sick of it. You used to be, I'm so sick of this. It's that dumb boy, not Carlton Banks. I'm so sick of this. You're serving up rotten ministry. You're serving up rotten service, rotten leadership to the congregants and parishioners, and people are sick. Therefore, your congregation is sick and your church is sick or declining in health. And this could be the reason why people may be leaving your church, because they want to be well. Okay. And I had another point talking about toxic leadership. Leaders are supposed to be helping the congregation, not helping themselves to the congregation. All right. Whew. I'll talk about that here. Oh, I'm right on target. Talking about this. Here it is. Another reason why people may be leaving a church is because there's a lack of healthy relationship. Okay. So dealing with leadership, leaders should have the ability to develop healthy relationships. Lady Catherine Williams Hall, thank you for tuning in. I love that lady. Her and her husband are down in Pineville, Louisiana, doing excellent ministry. I want to talk about, and again, you all please feel free to share in the comment section. The question is, why do you think some people are leaving churches? Leaders should be able to develop and foster healthy relationships. Let me say that again. Mature leaders, healthy adult leaders, they should be able to develop and foster healthy relationships. So what I just said a moment ago about leaders helping the congregation and not helping themselves to the congregation. There have been some churches, and we're seeing it. It's popping up all over social media, all over the country, all over the world, that you have some leaders who are misrepresenting. They're misrepresenting the church. They're misrepresenting the message of the word of God. And they are carrying out their selfish motives. All right. And they are betraying the trust of the congregation. That goes back to Jeremiah 23. Woe to the pastors, or woe to the leaders who are scattering the flock and driving them away. Woe be unto you. That's what the prophet said. I didn't say it. The prophet said it. You got a problem, take it up with the prophet. All right. So what does a healthy relationship look like? And not just in church. It applies on so many different levels. This applies in your personal relationship. This applies in your career relationships, business partnerships. What constitutes a healthy relationship in church? There should be trust, mutual. Okay. There should be mutual trust. There should be transparency. Okay. This is in a healthy relationship. Okay. There should be accountability. Woo, Jesus. I feel like I'm cussing right now. Are these cuss words? I think these might be cuss words. Humility. All right. Relatability. You should be able to relate to one another. All right. You should be relatable. You should be approachable. You should be teachable. All right. There should be reciprocity, reciprocal, because let me tell you something. Relationships are not one way. Relationships that are healthy are two way. All right. A one-way relationship is going to always be unhealthy, and it's always going to lead to decline. It's always going to lead to being sick. It's rotten. A one-way relationship is rotten. All right. So you as a pastor or a leader of a church, or that may have a leadership, all right, that have a leadership, should be able to develop and foster healthy relationship. You got a leader talking about, oh, I don't deal with people. They should not be a leader unless they are working on not nowhere. Because I'm getting ready to say, I'm about to say, put them in the audio visual ministry, but they shouldn't even be working there because they deal with people. And I just shared that reel in my Instagram story, and they say when there's a technical problem in the church, like let the microphones have feedback or the monitors go off or something like that. Everybody always turns around and look at the people in the sound booth. And they said the people in the sound booth wave back and say, hi. Oh my God. So they still have to interact and deal with people. So you gotta be able to develop healthy relationship. And if you are a leader, let me talk to y'all. We'll say, come here, let me talk to you. If you are a leader in any capacity and you have trouble developing and fostering healthy relationships, you need to sit down and observe that, assess that, go through that with an expert or a licensed professional to figure out why it is you have difficulty developing healthy relationships. That goes to what Bishop Darius Nixon just said. Sometimes over here in the church, y'all put people in leadership roles that need a psychiatric and psychological evaluation. It's the truth anyhow. As my grandfather would say, I know we ain't in church and there ain't nobody in here but me. But my grandfather, I got this light on right here in my face. My grandfather would say, amen, lights. Amen, walls. Some of y'all in y'all's churches, y'all got people in leadership that need a psychiatric and a psychological evaluation to determine what is the health of their mental, what is the health of their emotional, and what is the health of their spiritual. I heard a preacher say, and it was, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I'll put it like that. Kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I still believe in deliverance, and I ain't never heard so many people in church talking about you need to go see a counselor in the mental health. But the Bible that y'all got in y'all's pulpits and in y'all briefcases that your adjutants is carrying, and y'all got it in y'all purses, and you got it on your phone now in your Bible app. It says that he is a great counselor. A wonderful counselor. Let me say that again. That he is a wonderful counselor. Now watch this. How does the wonderful counselor show up? Because God is still seated on the throne, and he ain't abdicated. He ain't left. He ain't forsaken. He hasn't neglected the throne to come down to sit and be your counselor. Ain't not a one human on this planet can say he did it. How does he do it? I'm going to tell you how he does it. He does it through another human. He's able to bless you through another human. Even if you say it was spiritual, you say, now watch this, y'all. And this is especially in Pentecostal ministry, a person say, oh, well, I'm sick, or, I'm dealing with the hurt leg or broken leg, or I'm dealing with diabetes. I'm dealing with cancer or whatever. All right. Then what happens in what they call the faith healing movement? What happens? There's a preacher, a vessel, a human that may lay hands on them, or they may, have some type of moisture or gesture, some type of spiritual act that will induce or spark their healing. And then people that got the healing or received the healing will say, God healed me. God is the healer. He healed. What's Albertina Walker say? He healed my body. And you say, well, how did God do that? Because God is still on the throne. Now, how did he come and heal your body? And some people say, well, I don't know how he did it, but he did it. He did it through another human. When you get blessed, I'll never forget. I got a couple of examples. Again, and this is talking about developing healthy relationship. After one of the services that I attended, this was years ago. After a service that I had attended, I was dealing with sickness in my body. And I dealt with and bore that sickness through that entire service. Again, no complaints, because again, I'm a church baby. I love church. I love to be in church. And this is one of the reasons why I think it's important to have fellowship amongst believers. Because after that service, there was another young man that came up to me, and a friend of mine. We have healthy relationship, and I hadn't seen him in a long time. And we embraced each other and gave each other a hug. And you know what happened? I got healed in my body just right then when he hugged me. And he wasn't intending on doing that, and I wasn't expecting it. But I got healed. How? Through another human. Physically, like my body got healed. All right. All right. Then another instance and situation is I had a financial expense that I needed to have paid. And I was in church and I was like, God, I'm praying to God, please bless me with the finances so that I can pay this expense, and make sure that it's covered and taken care of. And don't you know, before I left out of that service, there was another lady came over to me, and she was a member of the church. She was a white lady. She came over to me. I love her today. She's still alive. She's such a sweetheart. She came over to me and she said, now the Lord told me to give you this check, for whatever it is that you got need of. And I ain't talked to no, what did I just say to y'all? I prayed to God. I didn't say anything to anybody else about the need that I had that was financial. And I prayed to God. I said, Father, bless me to cover this expense. She came and brought me a check for the exact amount of money that I needed. What is my point? And it was a healthy relationship. My point is that God will bless you through other humans. That's how he does it. It's through other humans. Now, there are other times I'm not knocking or excluding or denying divine encounters. You may have those. I'm not saying you don't. But most oftentimes, 9.99999 times out of 10 is going to be another human. So this is why you cannot discount and disqualify people. Oh, God, let me get up out of there. I'm going to stay right there for a little while longer. This is why you cannot and should not discount or disqualify other people. Because we had this conversation today earlier in the conversation too about, churches and leadership. Sometimes in some of y'all churches, I don't want to come to them. Some of them, I don't want to come to them. Why? Because I know that I would not be welcome. Why? Because I don't look like you. See, in some of y'all's churches, y'all want people to look a certain way, dress a certain way, walk a certain way, talk a certain way, and they don't know nothing about God. They don't know nothing about God. They don't know nothing about the church. They don't know nothing about your culture. They don't know nothing about your mission. Heck, half of your leaders don't even know nothing about your mission and your purpose. Okay, let me get out of there. Okay, let me, hold on. Y'all, hold on. Let me reel it back in. I was getting a little bit too passionate there. Let me reel it back in. I want to come back over to my Joel Osteen voice. He said, this is my Bible. I can have what it says I can have. I can do what it says I can do. I'm not knocking Joel Osteen. I like that man. Like him. But what I'm saying is that you can't expect nobody to come into your church already together. Let me say that again. You as a leader, as a pastor or whatever, a bishop, an evangelist, a prophet, a teacher, you should not expect people to come into your church already together. And so one of the reasons why some people may not be staying in your churches and they may be leaving is because they don't look the way that you want them to look. They don't talk the way you want them to talk. They don't dress the way that you want them to dress. All right? There's a huge conversation going on right now as it pertains to inclusivity. Some of y'all are so exclusive. I mean, some of y'all's churches, this is an exclusive club, members only. That could be one of the reasons why some people are leaving your church or will never, ever come to your church. Again, your love doesn't look like love. It doesn't sound like love. It doesn't feel like love. So you as a leader, and I'm bringing this from the church all the way down to your house because you're leading you in your house. You have to ask yourself the question, ascertain and assess it. Does my love look like love? Does it sound like love? Does it feel like love? Now, here's another thing in the scriptures. The scriptures clearly say that he chastens those who he loves, which means that love comes with correction, protection, and instruction or direction. Let me say that again. That love comes with correction, it comes with protection, and it comes with direction. That's what love will provide. And so if you ain't correcting people, and watch this, I'm not talking about doing it in a harsh, nasty, rude, humiliating way. Correction, that's not correction, and that's not love. You're trying to oust somebody, and you're trying to make people feel bad. Are you in a bad place? Maybe you got some pent up anger from some other situation that ain't got nothing to do with the person that you're dealing with. And again, that's toxic leadership. Toxic leadership. And you need to go somewhere and get that stuff worked out before you start dealing with the people. All right? So, does your love look like love? Does it sound like love? Does it feel like love? I will never forget, y'all. Somebody said something to me, and they were sharing something with me in regards to one of their family members, and it was in regards to a person who would consider themselves to be a part of the LGBTQIA plus community, and that individual, was asking if they and their significant other could be a part of a special gathering that was being held, and the response to them was no, because of the fact that they were a part of the LGBTQIA plus community. And these people, the response that came to them, the response that was no, was allegedly from somebody who is a leader, somebody who is a believer in God, somebody who's supposed to be a disciple and a follower of Yeshua. And I'm sitting here like, now wait a minute, that to me, that don't look like love. That don't sound like love. That don't feel like love. If you're turning people away, and these are people in your family, you're turning them away. Why would I want to serve the God that you are serving if the God that you are serving allows you to turn people away? And you ain't caused no controversy in the fellowship, okay? Because there are people you do need to turn away. People who are hellions or hell raisers or who are constantly disrupting and disturbing the fellowship. Those are the type of people that you can turn them away. He said you can turn them away because they cause too much of a problem. They're hindering the progress, okay? But for people who are just existing and being human, you're turning them away? Question. Does that sound like love? Okay, let me read that one more time and let me get off of that. 1 John chapter 4, verse 7. Dear friends, let us love one another. It ain't no qualification on that. It don't say let us love only the people who look like us. Let us love only the people who's a part of our denomination. Let us love only the people that go to our church. That ain't what it say. Come on, y'all. Talk to me in these comment section up in here, those of you that are watching and listening. He says, for love comes from who? From God. Everyone who loves has been born of God, and what? They know God. They know God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because what? God is love. So the last part, in connection with that, talking about, relationships, this is what really started this thought process that landed me here. And I started to survey relationships in my life that are present and some of those that have passed. And one of the things that I questioned was the authenticity of some of the relationships that I had in the past and presently. I'm looking at the authenticity of these relationships, and this is just for me in my life, because I don't want to be a part of a false or fabricated relationship. And I don't want to be a part of a relationship where you're only coming to me just to get stuff from me, because that was a question. So are we in relationship only because of what you can get from me? Or are we in relationship because you actually love me for who I am? And I'm talking about just me being Lamont. You take the title apostle off of there. Take the title bishop, whatever you want. Take that off of there. Just talking about me. Are you engaging with me because of who I am as a person? Or are you engaging with me because you see the value and the asset and the gifts that I bring to every atmosphere in which I am present? Because if that's the case, I don't want to be in that type of relationship. I don't want to be I'm not a prostitute. As they say, I am, because I know that there are sometimes younger audiences who view these broadcasts, and this has been very, very, way too long. But I am not a prostitute. They out there on the street and they out there in certain markets and they getting their money. I'm not a prostitute. So don't have a motive to engage with me just because of what you think you can get from me. Because here's the other thing. I have discernment and the real Holy Ghost. I got the real one. I do. I have the real one. So, I want to engage in relationships that are authentic. And I started looking at some past relationships, in church. I'm talking about in church now. Particularly there were some people that I was engaged in relationship with in healthy, what I assessed as a healthy relationship. There was no romanticism involved in this, but what was a healthy relationship. Now I don't hardly ever hear from them. And see, this is one of the things that makes it challenging because, again, toxic leadership. If you can't agree to disagree and still remain in fellowship and relationship together and continue moving forward, it's not a healthy relationship. Somewhere there's some toxicity in there, or somebody may have a wrong or ill motive. Okay, because here's one of the things that I learned when it comes to authentic relationships. You will find out, and this is how you will know how authentic the relationships are that you have with people that are in the church. You can apply it outside the church, but right now I'm talking about in the church. Is go through some adversity, experience any adversity, any problem, any trouble in your life. Then you will begin to see the authentic relationships as opposed to those that are not in your life. I'm going to say that one more time. Woo, my God in Zion. Adversity, this is what I wrote down, will expose the motives of those that you are in relationship with. That will help determine if that relationship you got with brother so-and-so or sister so-and-so is truly authentic, or if somebody else got some ulterior motive or got some other agenda with you or in regards to you. Woo, Lord have mercy. I feel that, and I hear some shouting music in my background. So woo, let me buck off of that. Because adversity has a way of testing people and proving people. Go through a terminal sickness or disease. Go through a divorce. Go through a financial hardship. Go through a job loss. Go through a catastrophic event and see who shows up for you. Whew. I'm shouting on that. See who actually shows up for you in a way that is helpful and beneficial and supportive for you. Watch what I'm saying. If you are a part of a church, you going through some hardship, you going through some adversity, something that is difficult, something that is adverse to you and the progress and the movement that you desire to have for your life. And if ain't nobody showing up for you in that church, you go to the church and you give me your tithes and you're offering your talent and your energy, your time, and ain't nobody in that church showing up for you, it's a good possibility that you're going to walk out the door. Pastor, sir, ma'am, they going to leave your church because your love doesn't look like love, doesn't sound like love, doesn't feel like love. You're not showing up for them. They showing up for you. They paying their tithes and their offering faithfully. They are giving of their time and their talent and their energy serving in your church. And they going through and you don't show up for them. That could be a reason why they leaving the church, because you ain't showing up for them in the way that they need. Let me say it that way. In the way that they need. So you have to ask yourself the question, why is it that some people may be leaving your church? Oh, okay. Last thing, and then I'm done, because this life has been waiting. Y'all see me sweating? I'm out here. I'm working. Okay, this has been too long. But here's the last thing that I want to say about this, why some people may be leaving your church, is because of truth, conversations, and questions. Truth, conversations, and questions. People who read the Bible with a sincere, pure heart, because there was some other stuff that I wanted to add in there, talking about relationships. I already hit that thing. But the Bible will spark questions in the mind of the reader. And sometimes they're not always able to find the answer on their own. Hence, this is the reason why, or the need for what people consider to be Bible study or small groups, things of that nature, where they can feel comfortable engaging in the group and posing or asking questions without being made to feel dumb or ignorant or stupid or less than. To get to the truth. Here's what I want to close this particular broadcast with saying, that churches across the board, y'all need to be ready to engage in conversation in a healthy way with truth without allowing your emotional intelligence to be lessened or weakened, because this, what I have found, this is just me in my little short time of living and surveying and coming across different people. I'm talking about hundreds, maybe even thousands of churches, that people have questions. People have questions, honest, sincere, genuine questions about this Bible, that a lot of y'all churches are not ready to engage in the conversation. You're not. You're not. I talked with a young man today in the barbershop. We were talking about this. He said, I got some uncles that are pastors, and when I asked them a question from a place of trying to get clarity and understanding, they feel intimidated, they feel insecure, and they feel like I'm trying to disrespect them, or like I'm trying, and I'm use this word, like I'm trying to flex on them or make it seem like I know more than what they do, and that's not the case. He said, I'm trying to really understand this thing called the Bible. Giovanni, what's up, man? G, I love you. All right. And so you have to be ready to engage in truthful, honest, transparent conversations that will lead to a place of clarity and peace, and not feel intimidated, not feel inferior or weakened. Again, if you are that type of person that feel like that, you need to go to a therapist who is licensed so they can help you understand why it is that you may feel intimidated or inferior when somebody is asking you a question that you should have the answer to, or you should know how to find the answer. Okay. All right. Let me pull back just a little bit. But you must be ready to engage in truthful, honest conversations about the Bible. Not made up, not fabricated, not what you think, about the Bible. That's why the scriptures say, come, let us reason together. And this is where I close with Psalm 133:1. Behold, how good and pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. One thing that you all have heard me teach, and that I firmly stand on and will teach for the rest of my life, is that you have something that I don't have, and I have something that you don't have. And when we come together, we bridge the gap, and we make the great exchange and deposit into one another, and we each are made better. So we have to foster atmospheres where people can ask honest questions, where they can ask sincere questions and be able to engage in the conversation. And let me tell you something. This Bible that we have access to, it is a living word. And I'm going to tell you how I know that. Again, this is from my own experience. When I began to talk with a certain group of people, we were sitting in the warming station of the church, and we were having a conversation about the Bible. We ended up being in that conversation for 5 hours and didn't know that we were in there for 5 hours. Why? Because we were all engaged in the conversation, and we each were contributing to the conversation, and we were each being edified. That is what should be the result, hear me what I'm saying, of healthy church or healthy leadership. We should be edified. All of us, from the oldest to the youngest, from the most seasoned to the newest. We should all leave edified. We shouldn't leave in division. We shouldn't leave in separation. You know, and somebody said that Sundays is one of the greatest displays of division ever seen because of different denominations and different beliefs and different interpretations and different stances. It's a problem. It's a problem. He said, behold, how good and pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. It's like the oil that runs down from Aaron's beard to his skirt. Unity produces the oil. Oh, I love that. Unity produces the oil. So if you endeavor to have a healthy church, a healthy ministry, a healthy organization, business, whatever, these are some of the things that I think that you should at least engage your mind in and begin thinking about these and having conversations about these and strategizing on how to strengthen the weak areas and how to continue to build up the strong areas and keep them well supported. It's not easy. It's not a one that fixes everything. You have to sometimes look at all of these things from the top to bottom. Some of y'all churches just need to completely stop. Ooh, let me get out of there. Some of y'all churches do need to stop. Just period. Call it quits. Call it done. Some of you need to stop altogether and reassess the health of your church and say, okay, wait, where do we need to go? What is the purpose? What is the vision? What is the mission? And how can we strategize on effectively implementing these things so that we can produce what we are supposed to be producing according to the vision and the mission and purpose of this church. All right, y'all. That was a lot, but I had to get it out. Thank you all for hanging out with me. Thank you for staying here with me. It is my prayer that you've been encouraged, empowered, educated, motivated, inspired, and uplifted to move towards your destiny, operating in the purpose for which you've been created, using the gifts that are within you. If y'all want to hear any more of this, then put some stuff in the comments to let me know that this was interesting to you, that it blessed you, that it encouraged you, that it sparked some thoughts in you, or let me know what it is that you want to hear more about, and I'll be able to get that, and I will prepare to share and speak on those things in hopes, again, of doing all of these things. Because, again, I'm very clear on my mission over here, renewing the mind and the body for healthy living. I said I'm very clear in the mission over here, renewing the mind and the body for healthy living. All right, y'all. I hope you're praying for me, because I'm praying for you. Why? Because I want to see you win. And I'm signing off by saying, hello, 2026. I'm going up, and so are you. What's to come for you and for me is definitely better than what's been. I say that I can because I survived. And y'all know what the hashtag is. Spread love. See you again real soon.